She abandoned her twin sons in the woods. 20 years later, they stood at her bedside. Welcome to the channel, where every story takes you on an unforgettable journey. If this one moved you, let us know. Drop a comment and tell us where in the world you're watching from. We love hearing from our global community. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you won't miss tomorrow's powerful story. One click keeps you connected to moments that matter. It was supposed to be a beautiful day, the kind of crisp Colorado morning where the sky stretches wide and blue and the pine-scented breeze dances through the trees. Janet, a woman whose smile had become more and more forced in recent weeks, told her 5-year-old twin boys, Caleb and Micah, that they were going on a picnic. Just a short walk through the woods, she said. We'll see butterflies, squirrels, maybe even a deer. The boys were excited. They wore their little backpacks filled with crayons and a worn-out storybook, skipping along the forest path while holding hands. Caleb, the quieter one, clung a little tighter to Micah, as if sensing something wasn't right. But their mother smiled and hummed a tune, softly, almost shakily. And so they kept walking. Eventually they reached a small clearing. Janet laid down a tattered flannel blanket on the grass, pulled out 2 peanut butter sandwiches from a paper bag, and set them neatly on napkins, as if this were a special occasion. But something in her eyes had already begun to drift away. She stood up slowly. The boys, chewing happily, looked up. "Where are you going, Mommy?" Micah called out. Janet didn't answer. She didn't turn around. She just kept walking, past the trees, into the thick woods, until she disappeared from view. They waited. Minutes passed, then an hour, and as the sunlight dimmed and shadows stretched across the clearing, the forest began to whisper a different tune. The air turned colder, the birds quieted, and the realization sank in. Their mother wasn't coming back. That night, under a fallen log, they huddled together for warmth. Caleb held Micah close, trying to be brave. "Maybe she went to get help," Micah whispered, voice trembling. But Caleb knew. He didn't say a word. By morning, the sandwiches were gone. Hunger set in like a silent storm. On the 3rd day, Caleb found a half-eaten apple under a tree. He brushed off the dirt on his shirt and split it with Micah. By the 6th day, they weren't crying anymore. Their lips were cracked. Their small feet, blistered and bleeding from stumbling through sharp underbrush, moved slower each hour. They drank rainwater pooled in leaves and tried eating the same berries they saw birds pecking at. Sometimes they chewed on bark or leaves, just to trick their stomachs into feeling full. Every snapping branch in the night made them flinch. It wasn't until nearly 2 weeks later, almost 14 days of surviving alone in the wild, that they stumbled out of the forest and onto the shoulder of a dusty highway. A truck driver slammed on his brakes when he saw them. He thought they were ghosts. "Where's your mommy?" he asked softly. Micah looked up with hollow eyes and whispered, "She got lost." And just like that, their nightmare found its way back to the world. They were safe, but they were far from okay. After the rescue, Caleb and Micah were placed into the state foster care system. Their names were recorded, photos taken. But what couldn't be captured on paper was the damage already done. They flinched at every sound, barely spoke. When asked where they came from, Micah would simply say, "The woods," as if it were a different country. Caleb stayed quiet, eyes always scanning the room for a way out. The first few homes tried, but foster care, especially in rural Colorado, was overburdened and under-resourced. Kindness was inconsistent, and patience wore thin. When Caleb had night terrors and screamed in his sleep, one foster mother locked him in the bathroom until he calmed down. Another home shaved their heads to keep things clean. One man slapped Micah across the face for asking for a second serving of spaghetti. They learned quickly, don't cry, don't speak unless spoken to, stay out of the way. But each night when the lights went out, the twins whispered to each other from across their shared bed, or sometimes across different bedrooms if they'd been separated again. "We're still together, right?" "Always," Caleb would whisper back. That was their anchor, their promise, but that promise would be tested. On their 11th birthday, everything changed. Micah was adopted. The couple was from Austin, Texas. Wealthy, polished. They wanted just one child. The agency said Micah was more emotionally adaptable. Caleb was labeled difficult, a quiet boy with trust issues and outbursts of anger. He didn't make eye contact. He was hard to place. At the shelter, when it came time to say goodbye, Micah clung to his twin like a lifeline. "I don't want to go without you," he sobbed. Caleb held him tightly. He was taller now, more guarded, but his voice cracked like it used to when they were 5. "You have to go," he said. "You'll be safe now." "But what about you?" Caleb leaned his forehead against Micah's, just like he had under that log all those years ago. "I'll find you," he said. "No matter how long it takes, I'll find you." And then he let go. Micah left with a new last name and a new home. Caleb watched the car disappear down the road and didn't cry. Not then. Not when the door closed behind him that night. But when he lay in bed staring at the ceiling, his arms wrapped around the thin blanket, the silence swallowed him. From that day forward, he stopped believing the world would save him. He moved through homes like a shadow. Got older, angrier, more invisible. At 18, the system handed him a garbage bag of clothes and said, "Good luck. No diploma, no money, no support. Just the streets." While Micah slept in clean sheets under soft light in Texas, Caleb curled up, behind grocery stores with a hoodie for a pillow. But even in the coldest nights, one thought kept him alive. He made a promise. And he would keep it. Years passed. Caleb drifted through the margins of the world, unseen, uninvited, and unprotected. He slept in bus stations, under overpasses, and behind diners that tossed out day-old bread. Sometimes he'd get a dishwashing job for a week, sometimes less. He cleaned up in gas station bathrooms and read job ads on bulletin boards with torn edges and false hope. But no matter where he went, he was always searching. Every library he stepped into, he went straight to the computers. He typed in Micah, Michael, Austin, adoption records, anything that might lead him to his brother. He wrote letters to agencies, called hotlines, searched every adoption site he could find. But Micah had vanished into the system, renamed and renamed again, until he became a ghost Caleb could no longer trace. Still, he never stopped lighting a candle on their birthday. Just one, lit with shaky hands. No cake, no song, just a whisper. "To the sky, we're still together, right?" No answer ever came. Meanwhile, Micah's life was quieter, but not easier. His new family gave him every material thing he never had. Fresh clothes, private school, even a bike with his name engraved on the frame. But they never once said, "I love you," never hugged him, never treated him like a son. They said he was a rescue. They told guests his old name was too rough, so they called him Michael now. He was a well-dressed stranger in his own skin. Every night he cried into his pillow, trying to remember Caleb's face. It had started to blur, but he never forgot. His brother's warmth, the way he used to say always like it was a fact written in the stars. Micah ran away twice. Both times he was brought back and sent to a therapist who tried to help him let go of the past. But Micah didn't want to let go. The past was where his brother lived, so when he turned 18, he didn't wait. He packed a small duffel, left a note that just said thank you, and vanished into the world. No plan, just a mission. He searched. For years, same cities, same shelters, same soup kitchens. So many times they missed each other by hours. Same park bench, same bus line, same train platform. Always just too late, until one freezing morning in Boston. Micah walked into a soup kitchen. To volunteer, he was tired, hungry himself, but drawn by a sense of something, a pull he couldn't explain. And there, across the room, handing out bread with trembling hands and tired eyes, was Caleb. They froze. Neither said a word. Then Caleb whispered, voice shaking, "Still together?" Micah's lips trembled. Always. They fell into each other's arms, holding on like time hadn't passed. Around them, people clapped, thinking it was a feel-good reunion of strangers. But they didn't care. They were brothers. And they were whole again. They didn't waste a second. After that reunion in the soup kitchen, Caleb and Micah, no, Michael, walked out into the icy Boston morning, side by side, hands stuffed in their sleeves, eyes red but alive. They talked for hours, sitting on a bench across from the shelter, letting the cold sting their skin like a reminder that this was real, that after all these years they'd found each other again, not in a dream, not in a memory, but here, breathing, whole. "I've got nothing," Caleb admitted. "No ID, no job, no place," Michael shrugged. "Then we'll build it together." They rented a tiny studio apartment above a liquor store, no furniture, just cracked walls, one space heater, and a twin mattress they took turns using. Caleb kept working at the soup kitchen. He said it gave him purpose. Michael picked up a part-time gig at a print shop and enrolled in free night classes at the community center. He studied coding every evening, hunched over a borrowed Chromebook, using Wi-Fi from the laundromat downstairs. They shared meals, coats, and sometimes silence. Caleb had nightmares, flashes of being lost, cold, forgotten. Michael would wake up to the sound of his brother gasping and just sit beside him, not saying anything, just being there. Some nights Michael couldn't handle crowded trains or sudden noises. His heart would race and he'd have to sit down on the sidewalk, breathing hard. Caleb would guard him like a soldier, keeping strangers away until he calmed down. They fought sometimes, about money, about memories, about nothing at A. But they always came back to that one promise. We're still together, right? Always. 3 years passed. Then came the breakthrough. Michael's app, a simple job search tool designed for homeless youth, started gaining attention. It let users search nearby openings, shelters, and food kitchens with real-time updates. He built it for kids like them. Kids with no one, nowhere to go, and no time to figure it all out. A nonprofit saw it, then a tech investor. Within 6 months, the app was bought out for 6 figures. Michael called Caleb the moment the wire hit the bank. "We're out," he said breathlessly. "We're free." They moved into a real apartment, a 2-bedroom with heating, working, lights, and hot showers. They bought fresh sheets, a coffee maker, and matching twin desks where Michael kept building and Caleb kept writing ideas for future projects. But they didn't stop there. They donated hundreds of jackets and gloves to shelters. Caleb made sure every bag had a handwritten note that said, "You matter." They spoke at schools, courtrooms, adoption panels, telling their story not for pity, but for the kids still sleeping behind dumpsters, still whispering into the dark. Still together, right? They wanted those kids to hear an answer, because for the first time in their lives, Caleb and Michael weren't surviving anymore. They were choosing, they were becoming, and they were doing it together. They had built a life, but the past wasn't finished with them. One afternoon, after a long shift at the soup kitchen, Caleb walked into their apartment and found Michael sitting frozen on the couch, a letter trembling in his hands. The envelope was yellowed at the edges, addressed in shaky, unfamiliar handwriting. No return address, just a name in the corner that stopped Caleb cold. Janet, their mother. Michael had almost thrown it away. But something, intuition, or maybe forgiveness, made him open it. "I've been looking for you," it read. "Please, if you can find it in your hearts to speak to me just once, I'm at Fernhill Care Center, room 306. I don't expect anything. I just wanted you to know I'm sorry." They sat in silence for a long time. Caleb's jaw tightened. His fingers curled into fists. "She left us to die," he said flatly. Michael nodded. "Yeah, but I need to know why." Caleb didn't answer. Not then. For weeks, the letter sat on the counter, untouched, unread again, a ghost between them. Then, one rainy Tuesday, Michael stood by the door, coat in hand. "I'm going," he said. Caleb looked up from the couch. His eyes were tired. His voice was quiet. "Then I'm going too." Fernhill was quiet. Gray walls, faded tile, the scent of antiseptic and time. The nurse recognized their names immediately and led them down the hall. "She's been waiting," she said. Room 306. Inside, their mother lay pale and thin in a hospital bed. Her skin looked like parchment. Her hair was snow white. But her eyes, when they turned toward the door, filled instantly. "Michael," she whispered. Then, seeing Caleb, her lips trembled. "You came." Caleb didn't smile. He didn't cry. "You left us to die," he said. Janet nodded slowly. "I did." Her voice broke. Her hands trembled as she gripped the blanket. "I was broken," she whispered. "Your father left. I had nothing. I was sick. Postpartum depression. I heard voices. I thought, if I left you in the woods, it would be easier than watching. You suffer the way I did." Caleb's voice was cold. "That wasn't your choice to make." "I know," she sobbed. "I've hated myself every single day since. I tried to find you when I got better, but you were gone. Lost in the system. I only found your names again last year. Someone shared your story online." She reached over to the table, hands shaking, and pulled out 2 crumpled papers, drawings yellowed with age. "I kept these," she whispered. "From that day, you drew them for me in the car. One was a stick figure family holding hands. The other said in crooked letters, 'Mommy, please.'" "Don't leave." Caleb swallowed hard. Michael's fingers trembled. They didn't speak again, but they didn't leave. They stayed the night. In the morning, she didn't wake up. Only 3 people attended her funeral. The twins stood side by side. No flowers, no tears. Afterward, Caleb turned to Michael. "Do you think she meant it?" Michael nodded. "Yeah, I do." And for the first time since they were 5 years old, they felt something like peace. Not because they got justice, but because they got answers. And they'd already built something far stronger than pain. They built a life. Together. If this story touched you the way it touched us, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever experienced the pain of separation or the joy of reunion? Do you believe forgiveness can truly bring peace, even after years of silence? Share your reflections in the comments below. Your story might help someone else feel seen, understood, or even healed. And tell us, where in the world are you watching from? We love seeing how far these stories travel, and your voice matters here. Whether it's a single sentence or a deep reflection, your comment makes this more than just a video. It makes it a shared moment between real people, across cities, countries, and time zones. We read every single comment, and many of the most powerful conversations happen right here, below the video. So go ahead, speak your heart. Tell us what part moved you, what stayed with you, or what you'll carry with you after the screen goes dark. Let's build a space where stories connect us, and where voices like yours become part of something bigger.